usually if you get them to tell their story, on the spot, it's you'll get a sort of more emotional, more intense version of the story, which is really neat. They can point out like it was right there, or it was over there. Or that's the direction I heard the scream, or whatever it is. So yeah, I'm very actively interested in researching the phenomenon, or investigating it at least.
Well, when you have interviewed people, how many of them actually did you believe, and how many of them you could still tell that they were scared of what their encounter was?
Oh, I mean, I do a lot of paranormal conventions to promote my books and so forth, and that's where at least probably half of the people the witnesses I've talked to, it's been that, and they're not there necessarily for Bigfoot. Usually these are generic paranormal conventions, or everything from ghosts to cryptids to whatever is there. So they're not specifically there for Bigfoot, and they'll come up and they'll look at my table and they'll see my Bigfoot book, and they'll start talking. They'll say, and it's not easy to get it out of them, but they'll say, yeah, I think I saw one of those. And I mean, I've seen grown men with tears in their eyes and their hands shaking as he told these stories. Most people, I've gotten one or two where I've thought, I don't know about this one. But by far, most people, they don't have anything to gain about telling these stories. No one's getting rich from Bigfoot that I know of, neither witness nor author or researcher. So there's not a lot to gain by faking it, and in fact, there's a lot to lose. You can be ridiculed. It can affect socially and so forth. It's not a fun thing to be a Bigfoot witness. Really, you're not going to get a lot of accolades for it. So for the most part, I absolutely believe the people, what they're telling me. Often it comes down to I believe they saw something. I wasn't there. I can't be 100% sure, but they have no reason to lie. So again, there's been one or two, and those have been the ones that have sort of I listen to a lot of podcasts about Bigfoot and read a lot of books and so forth, and one or two people I thought, well, you've definitely listened to the same podcast I have, because it seems like you're using the same terms to describe this that I've heard people on these podcasts use and so forth. But for the most part, the vast majority of people, I think, have been honest with me.
Well, I believe it, because the people I have talked to, that at least the ones that I believe, are all tell me a lot of the same things that I've seen, or things that I've encountered, from other people telling me what they encountered. And it all seems to be the main things, like the sounds of a Bigfoot, the red eyes, the rock throwing. It seems to be quite common that if you're in their area, they're trying to scare you out. I guess a huge big rock that I couldn't throw going across in front of me would be enough to be, hey, I shouldn't be in this area, regardless if it's some crazy guy or a Bigfoot.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I agree. I absolutely agree. There's too many common factors between these stories.
And then, I get these people telling me about portals in the area where they seen Bigfoot, and they swear that they seen like a Bigfoot come out of nowhere and or disappear instantaneously. Mm-hmm. Now, have you had those type of reports too?
I've read them. I've not gotten any directly. I've gotten reports where people have described them as like blacker than night, like they say it's like impossibly black, like so black that they look like they're absorbing light. So black they couldn't see any features. They're just incredibly black, which is really, really interesting. Like I said, if they see them at night, they say they're actually blacker than their surroundings. They're completely, impossibly black. But I know Stan Gordon, he's another investigator in Pennsylvania. He's taken reports of Bigfoot that have disappeared. They've been walking down one side of the road, disappeared, and reappeared on the other side of the road, and things like that. So yeah, I mean, the reports are out there, and Stan is, very thorough, very, very well-respected researcher. I tend to believe him if he reports it, that he's vetted his witnesses as well.
Well, maybe in the future, along with UFOs, maybe there'll be some proof one day that, it'll either prove that there is no such thing as a Bigfoot, or there's something else out there that it could be a lot worse than we could ever think. And, again, it kind of manifests as like the Bigfoot image to scare you away. I don't know. That is something that...
Yeah, and I mean, I allow for the possibility that there could be a natural creature out there and something else that mimics it for whatever reason, something, interdimensional or ghost-like or whatever the case may be. We may be talking about multiple things. We may be talking about one natural creature and something else that sort of uses the form of that creature for whatever purposes it has,
Well, if it uses that type of image to scare you off, it did a good job with me. So these books, where can they find them of yours?
So Beyond the Seventh Gate is my first book. Bigfoot in Pennsylvania was my second. Bigfoot West Coast Wildman is my third. And I just published the follow-up to Beyond the Seventh Gate. It's called Don't Look Behind You. They're all available on Amazon. You can look it up under Timothy Renner. All of my books should come up. And if anyone wants to contact me directly, strangefamiliars.com. Strange Familiars is my podcast, but all the information goes directly to me, and you can get signed copies of my books and so forth directly from me there.
Oh, well, why don't you tell us a little bit about your podcast? How often is it on? What day of the week? And where they can find it?
Strangefamiliars.com, but of course it's on iTunes and Stitcher and all of your normal podcatchers. It is, we do everything from kind of weird history and sort of forgotten history to paranormal stuff. We do a lot of interviews with paranormal witnesses and a lot of on-site stuff. So when I go and do Bigfoot investigations, if I have permission from the witnesses, I will run a recorder while we're doing it, so I can take the podcast listener on site with me when we do the stuff. And we've actually captured some neat stuff, some EVPs at some haunted locations, and like I said, some weird sounds at some of the Bigfoot investigations we went to and so forth. So we try to do, a good mix of everything. We'll do, it's like I said, so a few shows of witness interviews, and then we'll do some on-site shows and try to mix it up. We're every other Thursday. We have a show, but I think we're going to go weekly, so it should soon be every Thursday here.
Oh, that's exciting. Now, Mothman, somebody has just sent me a text. They said Mothman in Pennsylvania. Have you heard much about like Mothman and those type of things?
Yeah. In fact, my most recent book, there's a sighting that I talk about it's in this Toad Road area that I write about. These people saw, and they described it as Mothman. This was our Mothman sighting. It was a large thing that had wings that came out from its back. But it occurred along a creek and, between two creeks, between Cador's Creek and the Conewago Creek. And the interesting thing is, Lon Strickler is another researcher investigator. He's been documenting winged humanoids, as he calls them, or these Mothman sightings along this Conewago Creek going back to the early 1980s. So, there are multiple sightings of what appears to be Mothman-like creatures. The locals in the one area, they call it Old Red Eye because it has these glowing red eyes. But it is by all descriptions, the same sort of winged humanoid Mothman type things that people are seeing.
Now, are they reportedly vandalizing things or attacking people or animals or anything?
No, it doesn't seem like that's the case. The scary thing is some of the sightings were over a bridge, and of course the West Virginia Mothman sort of precipitated the collapse of the Silver Bridge there at Point Pleasant. So, and a lot of people say they're harbingers of doom, like when you see them, you mean something, but so far that hasn't been the case. It seems like people are just seeing it. It hasn't attacked anybody. It screamed. People have heard it scream a couple times. But other than that, it's not really. I think people, it's unexpected and it's weird, and I think that's people are afraid of it because it shouldn't be there by all accounts. But it hasn't hurt anybody or done any property damage to my knowledge.
Any other cryptids in that area that could be tied into like Mothman or Bigfoot or anything like that?
I'll get sightings of like what the witness described as a hyena, like a hyena type dog man. So it was like a upright creature, but they described it as having hyena features. That was seen in, less than a mile away from where they saw that Mothman creature at an abandoned iron furnace here. And a lot of the little people sightings in the area, we get a lot of those. Like I said, we call them Albatwitch here, but we get a lot of those reports.
Now, has anybody got any proof of the little people, like footprints or anything, or pictures?
I've seen some supposed footprints cast, but I don't know. It could have been. It would be unusual where they said for there to be little kids running around barefoot in the woods, but I don't know. I really don't know. It could have been maybe somebody's kid took their shoes off and ran around in the mud. I just don't know. I can't say for sure. But I've seen some, that people have claimed to be little people footprints. I thought I found some one day, but it ended up being black bear, the rear foot of a black bear, which the rear foot of a bear can look a lot like a humanoid footprint.
Oh, it can. What really is doing damage for Bigfoot or cryptics or that is when you go on a lot of these Bigfoot groups on Facebook, right? People are posting pictures up or they're putting videos up of, I saw one the other day that a guy supposedly had a video of a Bigfoot, right? But when you sit there and magnify the view on the video, you could clearly see it was a human wearing a costume because you could see the fabric move away from, the leg and all that stuff. But I don't know if they're the debunkers that they like doing that or they think people are going to look at that and believe it's real. I'm not sure. But it seems like... Well, go ahead.
The other one that you'll get a lot is pictures of leaf shadows, like a clump of brush and shadows in the leaves, and people say, well, there's Bigfoot there. And you'd be surprised at the number of people who chime in and say, I see it. And, I have a joke with my friends where I always say, like, yeah, and it's holding a baby, because so many, like, it's incredible how many of these people can see Bigfoot in the shadows of these leaves, and then inevitably somebody will come in and say, I see it too, and it's holding a baby. And it's like, is this a joke? Like, it's just shadows, and there's something called pareidolia where, if you look at shadows and leaves, it's human nature to make faces out of things. So I don't really think those pictures are helping a whole lot. If it's a natural creature that people are trying to prove, those pictures are hurting. Those aren't, they're not doing any good at all. If it's something else, something paranormal, I don't have any answers for what those pictures are. I get sent a lot of them. I get sent, tons of pictures like that. And the only thing I can tell people is I wasn't there when you took the picture. I don't see what you're telling me is there, but, you were there when you took the picture. So I'll leave it up to you. But, I see a lot of those, a whole lot of those. I've seen whole films based on that, where people point a camera at some brush and, oh, you see it? You see it? It's right there. Like, no, I really don't see it, but.
I don't know. To me, it does more damage when people post that. But, again, I was one of the very first people to be able to have Photoshop when it originally came out. So I'm really good in Photoshop. And people do send me pictures, and I'll sit there and zoom into it in Photoshop and some of the other, imaging software I have. And some of these things that they claim are Bigfoot out there in those bushes turn out to be an old tree stump where the tree, dropped off.
Oh, sure.
And that's a tree stump. But no, that's a Bigfoot. But you know what? Maybe people want to believe in it so much that when they see something like that, that's what their mind sees.
It's quite possible. And I have a suspicion, there was an old comedian, or, he wasn't that old, he's unfortunately dead now, named Mitch Hedberg, and he had a joke where he said, I think people always get blurry photos of Bigfoot because Bigfoot's actually blurry. and that was his goofy joke, but I kind of think there might be something to that, in as much as paranormal phenomenon, for whatever reason, it doesn't like to be photographed. And